Tonight on Raw, Randy Orton takes on Batista in a hell of a match. The Hoff, David Hasselhoff, is the special guest host. How did he do? And David Otunga comes back to Raw again, and Cena has revenge in mind. Right here, right now, it's your Raw review from Big Al and the Kick-Ass Wrestling Show. Tonight on Raw, we had a very special guest host. Right off the bat, we see David Hasselhoff come out. We were live from London, England, which was packed. I mean, this stadium looked great, but the crowd was dead. David Hasselhoff probably got the biggest pop of the night, which is sad. But Hasselhoff came out, he made a few matches, he talked a little bit, nothing special. They didn't do too much with him. As usual, you know, he was busy messing around with the Bella Twins, walking around with the Divas. You know, it was okay. They didn't do anything too spectacular with David Hasselhoff. But he came out in the beginning. He looked like he might have been drunk. I'm not just saying that because, you know, he has a history of being drunk, but he looked a little wasted. And he came out, made a few matches. Later on in the show, we find out that he brings back David Otunga. He invited David Otunga back at the request of John Cena. So John Cena and David Otunga to have a match there later on. So overall, with David Hasselhoff, I thought he was okay. Wasn't really used much. Few behind the scenes segments, and in the beginning, he came out and welcomed everyone to Raw. Other than that, they could have used him a little better, but I mean, you know, it is David Hasselhoff. He did a good job, I thought. Now, on to something else that I just mentioned. The crowd was horrible. They didn't give the crowd much to work with. I'll give you that. The matches were not that good. They were not exciting, but this crowd was not popping at all. They weren't popping at all during any of these matches for any moves. So the crowd was really sitting on their hands. I don't know what they wanted to see, but it was not good, and it made for bad television. It really kind of hurt the whole atmosphere because here was this big, awesome, you know, arena with all these people in it, and it was as quiet as can be. Eve won the Divas title. She beat Maurice. Okay, that's it. ShowMiz and the Hart Dynasty. Remember last week I said, aren't we doing something with ShowMiz and the Hart Dynasty? They started and then kind of stopped it. ShowMiz went off last week and got involved in the Otunga Cena thing. Miz came out, he had a few things to say, and then out of nowhere, Bret the Hitman Hart returns. So it's good to see that Bret Hart is still working in the WWE and he's still doing something. I like him and I like seeing him on television. So he came out and it was pretty funny. They exchanged, you know, thoughts. Miz said they were one of the greatest tag team of all time. So Bret Hart came out and said, I can think of a few tag teams that are better. British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation. For me, I'm going to go with Demolition. I know they're probably not at number one on most people's list, but they're number one on my list. Because when I was a kid, that was my favorite tag team. I used to have an awesome Demolition shirt that I used to rock to elementary school. So Demolition, all the way for the greatest tag team of all time. I know they started off as a ripoff of the Road Warriors, but in my opinion, as time went on, they were even better. I know that's going to be hard for a lot of people to swallow, but that's just my opinion, okay? So if we're talking about favorite tag teams, I'm going to go Demolition. Who's your favorite tag team? I doubt it's ShowMiz. So here's the stipulation. The Miz is going to take on Davey Boy Smith's son, David Hart Smith. And if he wins, Bret Hart has to admit that ShowMiz is the greatest tag team of all time next week on Raw. And Miz won, so supposedly next week, Bret Hart is going to have to admit that the greatest tag team ever is ShowMiz. That should be interesting just to see. I wonder, Bret Hart, I'm sure, has something up his sleeve here. We'll find out what it is. Evan Bourne took on Carlito. Look, the wrestling in this show was pretty boring. They really didn't give us much. Like I said, the crowd was quiet, but they didn't have a whole lot to pop for. Bourne's a good wrestler, but him and Carlito did not have any chemistry. Carlito, you know, he'd been there, done that with him. Maybe put him with Santino. Let's do the comedy thing maybe, but you know, as far as wrestling and getting him over, it's not going to happen. So Bourne and Carlito was kind of boring. David Hart Smith and The Miz was okay. That match was all right, but it was nothing spectacular. It should have been for the U.S. title. Miz doesn't even talk about his U.S. title anymore. That would have been a better match. Would have been more on the line for me than, you know, Bret Hart has to say something. This is kind of like a truth or dare. So I didn't really care for that too much. It's wrestling, not truth or dare, or let's make a deal, TNA Impact from last week. Kofi Kingston came out. He's not happy about what Sheamus did with him last week. So we continue. Kofi wins again by disqualification, and we continue with this. I think we're going back to the Sheamus Triple H thing, even though Kofi is getting involved. Triple H has a hurt neck. So they may be doing things here, just for the moment to fill in time until Triple H can come back for that sledgehammer steel pipe match that they keep talking about. So Extreme Rules, I'm sure maybe we'll see those too. We'll find out. The best match of the night, by far, was Randy Orton against Batista. This was really the first match where the crowd could pop or get involved. They did a little bit, and it was the main event. It was a great main event, but as you would expect, we did not get a clean finish. It looked like Orton was going to get the win. He RKO'd Batista out of nowhere, and then Jack Swagger interfered. And so Randy Orton wins by DQ. I don't really like screwjob finishes, but I'm happy as long as they let us have the match for a little while. We were getting to the point where we were either having no main event at all, or we were getting a 1-minute main event. So I'll take a good match, even if you're not going to give us the finish. It's better than no main event and no good match at all. So Jack Swagger comes in, and they're just hyping everything up for Extreme Rules here. Randy Orton, it was announced, is going to be taking on Jack Swagger for the World Heavyweight title at Extreme Rules match. And Batista, we know, last man standing against John Cena at Extreme Rules. So this did some good hype for Extreme Rules. Like we always say about the WWE, they focus in, they stick to their storylines. And I say it every week, it's booking 101. They don't do anything crazy. So overall tonight, Raw was a little bit boring. It was slow in parts. They stuck to their feuds. There was nothing that really made me say, what the hell is the WWE thinking? But at the same time, they're not trying anything out of the box. They're not trying to swerve anyone. They're not trying to give us anything mysterious. It doesn't seem like they're trying to catch your attention very much. And they're certainly not worried about TNA Impact. Because until the main event, this card was completely unstacked. This was a weak card. Okay. So for the not so great wrestling, except for that main event, that's a negative. Eve wins the title. I like Eve, but she's not a champion. And then again, the Divas division is not too much more respectable than the Knockouts division. Women's wrestling, not at its glory days right now in either wrestling company. David Otunga is not ready for Raw. NXT is getting canceled, and I hope he gets canceled with it. That's breaking news, by the way. Not canceled. But SmackDown is going to Sci-Fi, and Sci-Fi apparently is saying, peace out to NXT. I kind of knew that wouldn't last. I loved it in the beginning. Kind of got old. I didn't watch too much as the show went on. So I'm sorry if you're a big NXT fan. It's not going to be on much longer. So sorry, David Otunga. I hope you liked your time on Raw. They'll probably keep him, right? Try to push him a little bit. I hope not. He seems like kind of a Rock ripoff, where he's just trying to be cocky and, almost as if, we were doing our own wrestling impersonations. He seems like a wrestling impersonation. I don't know. I'm not really a big fan of David Otunga. So I was in the beginning. I think I even mentioned it on my radio show. But as time has gone on, I'm not sure I like any of those NXT guys. We may just need to throw that whole crop out. That being said, the Orton-Batista match was great, but the screwjob finish was not. Hoff was an okay. David Hasselhoff was an okay host. Nothing great or spectacular. There wasn't a lot on Raw tonight to give it a good grade. So, while I could go with a C here because they didn't do anything particularly bad, this was such a lackluster, such a slow, such a boring Raw. I'm going to have to give Raw this week a C-. I thought Impact was the better show. Impact had my attention more than Raw did, which is saying something because Raw had a better crowd. They always have better production. But Impact seems, Impact, when they're bad, there's nothing worse. But when they're good, they're better than the WWE because they're throwing stuff at the wall. They're trying to go out of the box. They're trying to do things at least a little bit different. Even if it's silly sometimes, even if it's stupid, at least it'll catch your attention. At least it's something out of the ordinary from what we're used to seeing on Raw every week. So I'm going to give Raw this week a C-. I give it the C-. That's not bad. I probably should go more with a C, but I really am kind of sick of the WWE just going, paint by the numbers every week with their booking. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This has been your Raw review. Please subscribe to us. I haven't been asking you lately, except for downstairs there on our scroll, but please subscribe to us, youtube.com/KickassWrestlingShow. It means a lot. We need your support. We need your views. And come back every week. We'll see you next Monday for another Raw review. I'm Big Al. Good night, everybody.